Hey guys, Pete here. This is my 10 Things You Might Have Missed video for Twin Peaks Season 3, Episode 6. This will be your spoiler warning. Everything beyond this will spoil Part 6 of The Return, if you haven't watched it yet. Alright, first thing, the names on the documents that were in Dougie's case files. You remember we saw him, he gets a little bit of help with some dots of light, and we see Dougie Coop making some markings. All the files we see have Anthony Sinclair's name on them. That's Tony that we met in his office, played by Tom Sizemore. And we also see him make a big mark next to the investigating officers on one of the documents, which are listed as Detective Loomis and Detective Stockton. So no clear understanding of what's going on, but Bud, his boss, wanted him to look at these particular files. They all seem to be claims that Tony has made, and these officers may be important in relation to some sort of fraud scam. The next one is the 119 drugged out mother turns out to be reused footage from Part 3. Now, I mentioned this in my recap and review that I put out 2 days ago, and I'm not sure what it means. It could be a situation where they didn't shoot enough footage of her or something like that, so they just had to reuse it. But as you can see here, they are the same clip of her saying 119 with the pill in the bottle. In Part 3, she goes on to take that pill. In this Episode 6, she doesn't. So, something to think about there. Number 3, if you hadn't noticed, this is Heidi. Heidi from the original run. In both instances where we see her 25 years ago and today, she mostly just giggles. You remember Shelley had said something about her being too busy jump-starting the old man when her car wouldn't start was her excuse for being late. So, yeah, she's been in the series before, and she's back, and she's still giggling. Number 4, the mention of Dr. Bend. I say that this may be important only because the way that Janey-E brings it up, it sounds like the original Dougie had seen this doctor in the past. We don't know anything else about him, but you remember she made a statement that she was going to take Dougie Coop there at lunchtime, but then she wasn't able to because she had to make the payoff for his loans. Number 5, the name Linda. I'm sure most people did actually notice this, but in case you didn't, we get a new character named Mickey. He says he's going into town for Linda's mail from the post office. She seems to be disabled, and Carl said something in relation to her going to war. So the giant said, remember 430, Richard and Linda, 2 birds with 1 stone. So this is most likely Linda in relation to Richard Horne being Richard. Number 6, when Richard Horne is driving, speaking of Richard Horne, away from the hit and run, we see electrical lines and a telephone pole reflected in his windshield. We also hear the electrical noise when they show up. It's not 100% clear if these things are really there or if they're just a clue, like a visual clue that we see. Because when he gets out of the car, we don't see that he's near any, or there aren't any telephone poles in the frame anyway. So it's hard to say, but it seems pretty important that they're there. And they're not only just there, but they're kind of pointed out if you miss them by the sound. You can clearly hear the sound if you're wearing headphones like I was. Number 7, the same intersection where the hit and run happens is the one where Mike pulls up to Leland and Laura in Fire Walk with Me. Now, it's in the same town, so this may not be anything of significance other than, they're in place, you would see places again. But it was an intense scene in Fire Walk with Me, and basically Mike was saying that you stole a can of corn. And it's not 100% clear if he's talking to Bob. It seems like he would be because I don't understand how Leland would be able to do that. But, it caused Laura to be upset. It caused Leland to not be able to explain what was going on. And now we see that same area again. And in number 8, related to that same area, we also see the same markings on this telephone pole that we did from Fire Walk with Me. And these markings were on a pole that were in the Fat Trout. Now, the meaning of this is obscure on purpose. Some things that are important, I guess, to mention is that it's not the exact same pole. It just has the same markings. Whenever it pans up, you hear the sound, the same sound that I mentioned that we heard whenever we saw the pole in Richard Horne's reflection on his windshield. But it's not the same one that we hear whenever you see the pole and the lines in Fire Walk with Me. So I'll get to that in a minute. But just wanted to make it clear that it's not the exact same telephone pole in the same place. This appears to be near that intersection where the hit and run happened, but again, there's nothing that says that is the case for sure. So yeah, 9 is that sound, the sound that we hear. I called it electrical hum. It's not really a hum, it's more like a crackling or something. And I was interested in this because when we saw the telephone lines in relation to the telephone pole in Fire Walk with Me, whenever we saw them, we heard the sound of the arm. You know, the arm, whenever he introduced himself, said, "This is the sound that I make," and it was sort of a whooping sound. And that's what we heard in Fire Walk with Me when we saw the electrical lines. Here the sound is different, and I went back and checked. It's not the sound that the giant plays. And honestly, I can't say for sure, but the first time I noticed this sound in season 3 was when we saw the statue that eventually came, in the Red Room obviously, that eventually came to be the Arm's Doppelganger. So this sound may be the sound of the Arm's Doppelganger, because we do actually hear the evolution of the Arm sound, which again isn't the same as the old one, but it's different than this one. So if anybody has done any more investigation and knows when we first heard this sound for sure, please let me know in the comments. Let's keep an eye on when these kinds of sounds happen, what we think they're related to, and there's a lot of speculation that can come out of that. And the final thing you might have missed is the sign out front of the Fat Trout Trailer Park. It does have a "new" on it. Now, I've mentioned this in videos from before because this was one of the original, shots that they showed in the few trailers we had, and I noticed it right away. There may be a backstory of how the Fat Trout got to where it is, or there may not be. It's kind of conflicting, like in the Secret History, it just sort of mentions Carl Rod coming back to the Twin Peaks area. In Fire Walk with Me, Deer Meadow does not seem to be in the immediate area of Twin Peaks. It seems to be in the south near Oregon. So this little new sign might just be there to give it a story fix, so that there's, if anybody was confused of why it moved, or it could just be that there will be a story later on down the road of why Carl Rod moved the entire trailer park closer to Twin Peaks. Couple of bonus things. The Nez Perce sign, or the tag, or whatever you call that, on the door. If you're not sure about Nez Perce, if you haven't read The Secret History, one thing that we know from that is that a chief from that tribe, a guy named Twisted Hair, is the person who first gave the Owl Cave ring to Lewis and Clark. So that tribe is mysterious for other reasons as well, but it's that's Hawk's heritage, and the ring, the green ring that we've seen, the origin story from Secret History is it came from them. Another thing is that there is some weird stuff with the Sonny Jim scene in this episode as well. I'm still really not sure what to make of it all. There was a long post and an explanation on Reddit where they show his footage. They show part of it forward, and then in the next scene they show that same thing backwards. So they're reusing footage again. It brings up questions because it's related to Sonny Jim, who people have speculated on before. I'm really not sure it's there. There's something there, I think, and I just don't know. I mean, he could be, with the thumbs up and the whole thing, he could be like the season 3's version of the waiter that is known as Senior Drool Cup, but we're just going to have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. So, okay, that's it. I will be likely doing a Q&A this weekend, and so leave all your questions and comments. I hope you liked the video. Please give it a like. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.